such a time as this.
And welcome to For Such a Time as This, the place where there is no such thing as a silent witness. As always, want to encourage you to go to our website, forsuchatimeasthis.today, forsuchatimeasthis.today. There, you can sign up for our email list that goes out once a week with the new material. Let's get into this video. It's very famous. It is not famous, but it is making its rounds. It's making its rounds on Christian social media. It is the sermon by Mr. Charlie Dates, who is I guess you can say, a pastor down on the south side of Chicago. He is. And with me to talk about this is Jay, who is a traveling missionary around the country. But I've asked him to come on the show and talk about the clips. We're going to have some clips about Mr. Dates, and we're just going to critique it. Welcome to For Such a Time as This again, Jay. How are you?
Pastor James, as always, it's good to be on the show. I'm excited about this video, talking about it, seeing if we can get some clarity. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, and Dates is a big proponent of what we call critical race theory. And let me say this. Let me just set the tone right now. We're going to listen to a video that he made public, and to the best of our knowledge, we are going to see what he says, line it up with scriptures, and then give our take, our puny commentaries from our puny little minds. And if at all we are wrong, Mr. Dates or someone who is a supporter of him or the ideology that he puts forth, by all means, you can come and correct us. We are willing to be corrected, but we're going to take what was said publicly and comment publicly. So with that said, Jay, are we ready for the first clip? We're going to play, 5 clips, I believe, and we'll react to what Mr. Dates says as it pertains to critical race theory and the scriptures. Here's the first clip.
To every well-meaning white Christian watching me today, to every president and dean of a Christian university paying attention to me today, to everyone who's tempted to turn the TV off or switch the YouTube channel somewhere else, ride with me for another 25 minutes. Let's see if we can unearth. If Jesus prayed for us to be one, why do we still remain separated and divided today?
Jay, why do we remain separated and divided today if that was the Lord's desire to be one?
Yeah. I thought I like this clip because it's a softball. We got some harder ones coming up.
Yeah.
I like this one.
Yep.
It's simple. I think that's a question to be honest with you, I do struggle with. I do think that I want to be careful. There is some validity to this message that there is some division among the church today. Even the true church, not the professing church, but the true church today, there is some division.
Yes.
Some of that, is just by geographically. I mean, there's some churches that are not going to intermix with others just by way of pragmatism. They just live far. We get that. That's fine.
Different neighborhoods.
Yeah, different neighborhoods, right? That's okay. That's just how they are.
Yeah.
But my question was, can we say that still today, that there is, outside of that, is there division? And now he's context of race, context of kind of the black and white stuff. Is there still division today in the true church? Are there still people on the black side, still people on the white side that would say, hey, we're not really feeling each other? Yeah. Kind of like how it was back in the day. Can we say that today?
Here's what I'm going to say. I think that the church and people in the church are not perfect. No one has said that we are. No one has made the claim. And so there are some cultural differences that we still have not overcome. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation, is it not? And so black Christians like black music. White Christians like white music. Asians like Asian music. Hebrews like Hebrew music.
Right.
And that's just the cultural. But the problem is this. To put into context what he's saying, he highlights, not only in this clip that we're going to go through, but throughout all of his preaching, a hostility between black and white. So if I don't want to go to a Japanese church because I don't like their music, there's no hostility there. Go do your thing. But what he is saying and what he's trying to highlight is that there's some sort of hostility and animosity between the two, and he's going to give his reasons why that is, in fact, the case. And so we're going to ask, is what he's saying true?
That's a good point about the hostility.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think if there is a hostility amongst Christians, I think it's a very, very, very small minority. I think in my experience, you joked about me being a traveling missionary. I've actually had some very rough encounters at multi-ethnic churches trying to do this and trying to stand up for the truth and not really working out well. But I would say in all those encounters that the hostility wasn't the case. It was just simply preferences and not knowing. But most people cared about one another across racial, ethnic lines. So you're right. I agree with you on that one.
And cared about the mission of the church. That we are united on the mission of the church, and that is found all over the New Testament, but as clear as possible in the first chapter of Acts, when they ask, is the mission of the church going to be that you're going to restore the kingdom of Israel? He says, nope, it's not your job, not your job. You're to be my witnesses. You're to be my witnesses. And that's the mission of the church, which we'll bring out more in other clips. So here's the next clip right here. Here we go.
When I go to preach at certain institutions and the subject of division comes up and slavery is inevitably mentioned, I don't know why I am either told implicitly or explicitly, will y'all get over that? No people who have ever been through the long night of state-sanctioned oppression have ever been told, can you get over it? Isn't that what they said in Psalm 137? Jerusalem, if I forget thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. Holocaust victims are not told to get over it. We got museums in every major city and around our country built to the memory of their experience. But black Christians are always told, get over slavery. Part of the reason that we are not to get...
So we're going to finish that clip on the next one. What say ye?
Yeah, I don't say I struggle with this one, but I think about this one often. When we're talking about this, I think people sometimes put you in a different one or two camps. Either you just want to disregard what slavery, how bad slavery was, and you never want to talk about it again, or you just want to focus on it way too much and act like it's still happening as bad as it was back then. I think we can acknowledge that. And here's my question. How should black Christians view slavery in America? The atrocities that happened. I think we'd both agree that it was very bad, wrong, bad, sinful, evil. I think we'd both agree on that.
Yeah, the same way that I think that most whites view it, as a stain on this country.
Yeah.
And there would be a problem if you had a large or small section, any type of cross-section within the evangelical world who says it wasn't bad. I don't know any. Jay, do you know any white person in the church who says it was not a stain on our country?
I personally don't know any.
I don't know either. I don't know either.
Yeah.
And I know a good handful of white people. You go to our church, right? I don't know anyone who says it was not a stain. You're right, but as black Christians in America, how do we treat that? We acknowledge it, and then we move on to the mission of the church. And the question I've always said with critical race theory, is the mission of the church to eradicate all forms of racism? And I always say, if you could do that, don't stop at racism. Eradicate all forms of adultery, of lying, stealing, murder, if that is the mission of the church. But again, the dangerous bait and switch is what is the mission of the church when it comes to black folks, and what should we be doing? Yes, we acknowledge the horrors, but now what is the mission of the church going forward?
Yeah, and James, I think, and you're right. I think we need to keep coming back to that. We got to build God's kingdom. You referenced Acts, and they said, "Are you going to restore the kingdom now to
That's
Israel
right.
here on earth?" And he's like, "Hey, later date. That's not for you. My mission for you is to build
There you go.
the kingdom, God's kingdom."
Witnesses,
That's right.
yes.
So that should be our focus.
Correct.
Make disciples. Make disciples and make disciples. I think a message that's getting lost here, though, if we just want to zero in on this aspect, is simply forgiveness.
Yep.
I have met some people. I don't think they're a Christian, but some people who are. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee right now. And you come across some who do. I'm more specifically in Franklin, and there are some people who do love the battle of the states, and they love their culture, their pride. I think you know who I'm talking about. And there needs to be, on my part as a Christian, a sense of, hey man, if you say certain things to me, if you act a certain way to me, I'm going to extend forgiveness, the same forgiveness I received from Jesus. I'm going to extend to you. Yeah. I don't think there's a, and I don't believe in holding, like ancestors accountable for stuff that other people today haven't done. But even if you did that, I think there's a message getting lost in there today. Yeah. That we're not extending this forgiveness. Yeah. So we're just holding them accountable, and that's it. It's almost like we're reversing the roles.
But here's the thing. Excuse me. When you talk about extending forgiveness, am I extending forgiveness to someone, to something they didn't do? Do you see? That's where the trickiness comes in.
That's why I said if you hold to that view of holding people accountable.
Okay. For what they didn't do.
I don't.
Yeah, I got you.
But if you do, there's still not a message of forgiveness.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because I've said before, the more and more I look at it, now when I first started to look at it and wrestle with it, I thought maybe it was an inside, it's an in-house debate. I no longer believe that. This is a different gospel. It's a different message. Let me play the next clip here. He continues on.
Part of the reason that we are not together is that white Christians, by and large, still won't stand up and declare the lineage of slavery and the lingering effects of slavery to be tearing us apart today.
So see, he's saying that the lineage of slavery, the effects of slavery are tearing us apart. Tearing us apart. Again, he's letting slavery define not only the culture, but the church.
I think he's right. And I think
what is he right about?
Well, I think it is tearing us apart, so to speak, but I don't think it's from the white side. I think it's from the black side. I think they're holding it over the white people's head, and that's keeping black people from forgiving, extending grace, and being reconciled to their brothers and sisters who may be blind on certain issues, who may not be as, quote unquote, woke or culturally relevant as they'd like for them to be. But still, I think, Charlie, and I could be wrong, I'm open to being wrong, I think you're right, man, but I think it's the black community that seems like to be the problem in this.
See, you're putting the blame on the blacks who are not extending forgiveness. He's extending the putting the blame on whites for not agreeing with him in all that he espouses when it comes to the racial divide, that white people aren't doing enough to heal. And again, and I say this on a lot of videos, where, and Mr. Dates or anyone else on that side, where is the message of the cross? Where is the preaching and teaching that God will come back and judge, and the wrath of God will abide on those who don't have the blood? That the church's message is to proclaim a coming judgment by which we must be bathed in the blood of the Lamb in order for the angel of death to pass over us. Where is that message? It's not there. It's not there. It's not there. It's not there.
Yeah.
For the sake of time.
Which truly unites us.
Which
truly unites us.
That's what unites us.
Yes.
That is what unites us, because there's a lot of people going to hell. A lot of people going to hell. And That's not spoken of people on that side. The message of the cross is not. It's not that it's marred. I used to think it's marred. The more and more I listen, it's not even there.
Yeah.
Sin, repentance, obedience to His word, not there.
Yeah.
Not there.
Yeah.
Here's the next clip.
What God has done through chocolate people in America is nothing short of amazing, and we will always be divided if that silence is permitted.
So, Jay, you like that term, chocolate people?
Oh man, that's a tough term for me, man.
Tough term.
I struggle with that one. Yeah.
What, are we
I don't know
ashamed
what
of?
to think
Are we
about
ashamed that we chocolate people?
No,
ashamed?
it's not that. I'm not ashamed of the color of my skin.
No,
man.
me neither. Me neither.
No. I think words are very important today. They're the church. If you go on Twitter, I mean, you see it, man. People are dividing over
Yes.
terminology. I mean, so I think it's just, especially as teachers of the word, we got to be very careful with the words that we use, especially in the pulpit.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, and I'm open to that. I am. I just don't
think
like
you're
the
wrong.
term chocolate people. I just don't like the term chocolate. What do you think?
He's putting
James?
a barrier. He's putting a barrier up that the gospel tears down. In Galatians, what is it? Neither Jew nor Gentile, slave nor free, male nor female.
Male nor female, yeah.
That
We're all
at
one
the
in
foot of the
Christ.
cross, we're one.
Yeah.
That He does away with the socioeconomic divisions, slave nor free, the sex divisions, male nor female, racial divisions, Jew, Gentile. That we're one. We're one.
That's good news.
He's not. That's the good news. He's not denying that these things exist. Of course, cultures exist. Of course, there's a distinction between male and female. But at the cross, those divisions are taken down, and we're one in Christ. The gospel takes down those divisions and makes us equal in God. But He's putting them up, unnecessarily so. He's putting them up.
He even said in that clip that unless white people,
That's right.
from his words, unless they do certain things,
That's
then
right.
we'll always be divided. And in my opinion, we're talking of if Charles Dace is right, we're talking about sin here, and the only hope for sin is the gospel. Last time I checked.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, even if white people did certain things, that doesn't, one, make them a Christian, and that doesn't, two, mean that we're unified in the biblical sense. And so I think it's just a very dangerous message to communicate, because then you can give a false sense to white people if they're not to say, okay, so all I got to do is this, and I've rewrited wrongs. Now we're unified. Now maybe even
now we're good.
I might be pushing it. Maybe now we're good. Now we're Christian. Now God's
I'm good with God.
Like, I'm good. And it's
because
like,
I've acknowledged my white privilege.
Right.
Right. I've washed some black feet.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I've admitted I'm a racist because of the color of my skin.
Right.
And I've listened to Pastor Charlie Dates, and now I'm good with God. That is the danger of this.
Yeah.
It's a different message. It's a different message. Which brings us to our last clip. Here it is.
What would happen if the president of Southwestern and Southeastern, what would happen if the president of DTS and the president of Trinity, my beloved alma mater, would actually raise up a platform and say, we're going to study not just the fact that slavery happened and apologize for it, but we're going to look at the extending effects, and then we're going to take the name of all of these slaveholders off our buildings. We're going to quit hanging the oil portraits of men, Baptists, and big beards who owned slaves while lauding and applauding them. And we're going to get some black professors up in here. Why has that not happened?
Okay. You go first on this one.
Ah, man, I just want to make it clear, we are men of the word, men of the gospel. We love the gospel.
Who? Me and you, right? We're not talking,
me and you. Yeah,
we're not extending that to. Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah, me and you. And our aim is not to just tear people down, but we want to uphold the truth of the gospel and make sure that message is very clear.
Yes.
And anything false, we want to bring to light so that
Absolutely.
we can proclaim the truth. Yeah. So, James, I don't know, man. I struggle with this. So there are men who
Yes.
claim to be Christians,
Yes.
who have standing in the Christian circles, and who have done some maybe who've had slaves. Let's just keep it in this context.
Yes.
He mentioned some people
Yes.
in seminaries who are on the walls, who've owned slaves. Let's take those down because that's, we're just promoting that kind of ideology in the church. It's not right that some of these guys have, I don't know these guys. I don't know who he's talking about specifically, but it's not right that if they were Christians and they did some wrong things, should we esteem them? Nobody's perfect, but should we esteem them?
Here's the question. It's very dangerous to start to hold the standards of 2021 to men of history. So if I told you this, Jay, if I said, can a polygamist be a strong Christian? What would you say?
Good point.
Are you going to cancel King David?
Right.
You're going to cancel? You're going to cancel the man after God's own heart? And if you're going to make as a standard slave owners and cancel them, never to be applauded, never to be esteemed, then you've just canceled Father Abraham. You've just canceled the patriarchs.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to hold the standards of 2021 in our culture to men of past. Now, again, slavery in this culture, the way it was practiced, racially based, I think not only was it wrong, I think the Old Testament, when it talks about slavery, did not promote that type of slavery.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But for you to make a blanket statement about slavery, I mean, it's not as cut and dry as he tries to make it out to be.
Yeah.
And if you're going to cancel every slave owner in history, you've canceled Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, I'm not giving a pass for American slave owners who practiced a slavery that was racially based. Okay,
Yeah.
I think that was wrong.
Evil.
And I've said before about George Washington. I've said this before. I had some good friends who said, "Hey, George Washington was a good man because he freed his slave. He freed his slaves when he died." To which my response was, if he was so good, why didn't he free him while he was living?
Yeah.
And so I understand that. But you can't take the cultural blindness and the cultural biases of men and then cancel them totally.
Yeah.
That's wrong. Listen, there are other cultures before in the past that will look at the movies that we look at today and say, oh, you guys must not have been Christians. You look at that garbage on HBO or AMC. Well, obviously, you look at shows that take the Lord's name in vain. Or my pet peeve, you look at shows that actually put God in an image. I think the ancient Hebrews will look at our culture and say there must not have been a believer among any of y'all because you guys tolerate idolatry. That's just my pet peeve. But anyway, so if you want to take other cultures and hold them up to the standards of 2021, be careful because they might do it right back to us. And we might all be canceled. So it's dangerous to do that. You got to be careful. You got to be careful. But again, in all of this, even if a slaveholder, let's say a slaveholder back in George Washington day, who owned slaves based on race, but yet he believed and he taught that the wrath of God was coming and that you needed to be right with the Savior, Jesus. Otherwise, you would spend an eternity in hell. I have more in common with that slave owner than a man today who is preaching a different message and a different gospel. That's just the way I see it, Jay. What say you?
I agree with you, James. I got no fault there, man. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, so we blacks, and here's oh my goodness. Let me just say this. I got to say this. A few more seconds. I got to say this. And Jay, I've told you this.
Yeah.
If I have to beg anybody for their approval Please, 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 Jay, please accept me, Jay. Please accept me. Please accept me. I see that as weakness. Weak. And as long as, Jay, I have to beg you for acceptance, I will always be your inferior. You will always be my superior. If my well-being and my peace of mind is based on your acceptance, you will always be superior to me. And for the life of me, I don't understand. See, that was one of the great things I love about the gospel. I was accepted by God, and his approval alone do I now seek. I no longer seek the approval from whites, blacks, celebrities, anybody. And in that sense, I'm truly free, and I don't feel inferior to no man. As long as blacks beg whites for whatever it is, please acknowledge the wrong done. You're arguing, the very position by which you argue is from a position of weakness, inferiority. Because what happens if whites choose to withhold? Are you going to continue to cry and moan?
Yeah.
You see,
or you continue to lift up the white community as if it has some power that God doesn't.
But it does. In their mind, it does.
Yeah, and that's dangerous.
Right?
That's very dangerous.
That's dangerous. Yeah. It's weakness. It's weakness. It's weakness. But anyway, who am I? I'm just little old pastor, in Palatine, Illinois. Hey, thanks a lot, Jay. Thanks a lot, everyone, for listening in for such a time as this. And remember, read the scriptures, obey God, and build his kingdom. Thank you. God bless.
All for his glory.
All to his glory. Bye-bye.
For such a time as this,